everybody. I'm Harry, Father Harry, and this is the Pritch, Michael Pritchard, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to talk to one another because we really don't like each other. And this scammer forces us to, to get. Why can't we all just get along?
Get along.
Yeah.
We all get along.
So, Pritch and I have known each other a long time. My name is Harry, Father Harry. I'm a priest of the Archdiocese of San Francisco, and been doing a little media for many years. So we've had the opportunity to get together through our past lives, both studied to be a priest, and one making it, and the other one making it in another world.
I'm glad he said I studied.
You didn't.
I know, no, I didn't. That's why I was, oh, well, never mind, that was tossed out.
Yeah.
Not important.
Yeah, the priest who tossed him out was one of my best friends. And I was...
And even more so now.
I was a little older than Mike. So, we have this thing called, we're going to change the name from the Padre to the Pritch, to the Pritch and the Padre, because I want to give him top billing. So when we get when we get arrested, you go to jail first.
Cuff me now. I want to go. I want to go. I want to sit in the cell if he's not there. Okay, never mind.
That's the only reason I like you is because you have so much influence with the protective services. So today, in Northern California, some of you have seen this somewhere else. For the last few years, it's been drought. It can rain for a week, and the next week the guys will be in the paper. Well, we're just 7 more feet in water, and we'll be out of the drought.
Well, be out of the drought, but they just keep it.
It builds up over the years. So
right.
I was preparing, for Sunday services, and Jeremiah the prophet is talking about the difference between shrubs and trees. And he said, the shrubs their roots are like little bitty things in the ground, and if they don't get water quickly, they're dead.
They're gone.
But trees have roots that go way down deep, and they can last a long time.
You bet.
And in my minuscule research, because someone pointed out the great sequoias here. And are you paying attention?
I said minuscule. I went, wow, big word.
Yeah. I'll spell it for you later.
Thank you.
So the sequoia, someone was out watering the redwoods one day, the sequoias, and the arborist, this is another big word.
Arborist.
He's the man who takes care of the trees. He says to me, because the Latin word for tree is arbor, so that's why an arborist is one to take care of the tree. He says, those guys are wasting their water because sequoias, the redwoods,
the big ones,
they get their moisture from the atmosphere, from the fog. Yeah. They don't need water in the ground necessarily.
It just comes to them off the ocean. And
but that's why they're so thick around the coast.
Wow.
Especially
I did not know that. Yeah.
Here in Northern California, they get their moisture that way. So, and the sequoias grow in groups. So the point I'm going to make, I'm going to get to it in 10 seconds.
I know you're from Cape Girardeau.
Why do you keep bringing that up? The point is that people grow better in groups, and they learn to protect and to serve, and then they learn how through sociality how to get along with each other. And if one of the trees is not doing so well, like the wind would be blowing, the other two have a way of adjusting themselves.
Really?
Yeah, and they protect each other.
Wow.
So we can learn a lot, and it's like some people say, "Well, I don't need to go to church because I don't need to pray with other people. I pray while I'm in the kitchen. I pray, or I pray at the table or I
Right.
pray. But praying together
Yeah, huge.
points out the fact that we all need each other.
Right.
People who need people, as Barbara Streisand sang, are the luckiest people in the world. So even though I don't like you,
Barbara Streisand married an Irish guy named Brolin. She's been doing really well, thriving.
really,
Yes, James Brolin.
I didn't know that.
See, he's Irish. You know, that's a great combo. That unity.
So what does that have to do with trees?
Because it's about unifying and being able to engage people of different cultures, backgrounds, religions, ethnicities, and how important it is to make sure people feel included, even if you're a tree and you're dense in the forest.
And bark. You have a
Yes.
you have a very thick
A
bark.
thick bar. Oh man.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with anyway. But I actually do, studying the fact that sequoias and redwoods, they grow at the end of their life huge amounts, and they've never been able to, arborists have never been able to figure out what that is about, that later on in life they expansively grow just before expiring. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because people who live longer, human beings,
Yes.
through the experience of life, they get smarter, or they make better decisions in general
He's not looking at me right now.
as you get older.
Yes.
No, I think I'm making better decisions than I did when I was 35 or 40, and the decisions I made in those years hardly came to fruition because people would look at you and say, "Oh, you're a dreamer," or "You'll never be able to do that," or that's pie in the sky.
Right.
And in my case, especially with the media, I couldn't get any financial support
Right.
to do the kinds of things I wanted because I was working in the music business with rock and roll music, and a lot of Catholic people or religious people, not just Catholic, Protestant as well, that some way Satan was involved in rock and roll.
In rock and roll, yeah.
And it was an evil thing, and it was killing our kids. And unfortunately, the drug culture, as you know better than I, came with that music industry,
Yes. Right.
which tainted that whole world.
Right.
And no matter how talented a musician might be with his instrument or singing or whatever,
Right.
there was such demand that they had to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yep. Well, I mean, you remember that when we first, it was folk music. And
Yeah.
it didn't have that stigma.
Right.
And then it rolled into rock and roll. And right along with Presley, they do these great documentaries that say he was being condemned right from the very beginning with that kind of music that was shaking up the children, and it was like demonizing children. And I think that, over the years of trying to be around, because I opened for a lot of rock musicians over the years, one of the things I guess I learned more than anything else was each and every one of them was an individual, and every one of them had found an outlet in music to escape sometimes their own early childhood traumas or issues or things. A lot of them had depression issues, and music was their way to medicate and help themselves to lift themselves up and crowds of people, which was pretty profound, I thought, at the time. I used to watch these guys when women walk off stage, and they'd be just so happy that they were able to do that for a crowd. And I think in the same relationship back to how redwoods and sequoias are, to draw it back to that, as we grow, we learn, and as we learn, we grow more. And one of the things for me is watching you and your ministry when you were on God Squad, you played great music that was inspiring and lifting and trying to pull people together and talking and giving messages out. That's urgently important. Even like right now, Father, I had to say, I've never seen a time where the folks are isolating and self-isolating and pushing away more, which leads to cynicism. And it's really hard because it's hard to get people to believe in anything. And the arts unite, as the Jesuits say, ad majorem Dei gloriam, all for the greater glory of God. I think when we get our kids into music, theater, art, dance, cartooning, animation, any of this stuff to lift them up, it's very helpful. And
So what was your experience with, because this is what I gleaned over all of this. When you're an artist and you're creating, whether it's music or dance or painting and you're in a groove, you don't want to stop. So
Yes.
you take the uppers to keep you going.
Right.
So some of these guys would be on the road and they're writing songs on the bus, on the plane,
Right.
In the hotel room, and in order to stay awake, so they don't lose their trend of thought, they're
Right.
doing the.
They're doing, yeah. That goes in the same thing in athletics as well sometimes. These stimulants and the depressants for sleep afterwards when they're crashing are the thing that most involve the psyche, and trying to tell people that this is the destination ahead is crash. It's crashing. You're going to crash no matter which one, stimulant or a depressant, either one of those, you're still crashing.
Yeah.
And our job as good community unity members is to tell them, like the flag man on the highway, if you're driving by so fast you can't hear the message, I can't tell you that the bridge is washed out and there's a 300-foot drop.
Yeah.
But if you can pull in and I can give you the information and you're listening to me, that's where we're, any cleric, any social worker, any probation parole agent is really good at their job, is trying to expose them to the solution of abstinence and finding recovery and finding a way to help other people. And, God only knows, when I think back of our lives and what we've seen from, you started in the 50s with music that was softer, gentler. It was what you would call you remember the Kingston Trio, Joan Baez, all these guys, Mitch Miller, when we were kids, and everybody would sing along. And then we moved into the rock and roll ages. And as that then by the time Joel Selvin wrote the book Altamont, which was a great book, which covered the dark shadow of crazy violence that was on the periphery of that. And how that could become dangerous even now to this day. Right?
When I was working with ABC Radio, the Rock Network,
Right.
I was living in New York, and they.
You must have seen so much there.
Well, those guys, they had the affiliations across the country.
Right.
This rock network. So my little messages on there went boom. And they said to me one time, there's this thing going on in a little country place called Woodstock.
Oh.
And it's raining now, and we'd like to helicopter you up there to do some interviews.
Did you go up?
I was such a little.
I
thought, no. I saw on TV a little bit. There were some people walking around naked, and
right.
So
about that.
And they were talking about drugs and all, but they wanted to send me up there to do some interviews, not with the musicians, which I would have gone crazy about that, but just walk around with the people. And I didn't have I didn't have the spiritual character to be able
I get it.
able to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
I
was a little mouse.
Yeah.
You know, and years after that, especially.
Did you feel intimidated by it?
I just, I mean, I would have been if I'd walked up and somebody jumped out of a pool of
bush.
mud or would have scared the daylights out of me. And then, you know, if they would have offered me a toke or, you know, some
whatever.
drug, and then the cameras would have been rolling, and then,
And
then there I would be. Even though
Priest.
I didn't, well, I don't
Headline.
think I would have worn my collar, but I probably would have, because if I was representing those networks, they would have wanted me to do that. But there was the president of that rock and roll FM ABC was Will Lockridge was his name. He was a great guy, and he had a son who took his life, and it was one of the worst funerals. If there's a worse funeral, but what to say when a kid, because his girlfriend leaves him, blows his head off, you know.
Impulse control, right?
In the girl's home, her home, you know, not out in the woods.
He went there.
He went there, yeah, to make a statement. So I shouldn't have said the name, should I?
That's okay.
All right,
We can deal with that.
yeah, okay.
And we can deal with that after.
So anyway, that particular the highlight of that, there was a song. It's not "Walk the Line," but it was an unknown rock and roll group about. I wish I had the memory of when I had it at 40 or 50.
Yeah, I understand.
Anyway, it was all around that song, the funeral, and all these executives are there, and you know, they said, "Oh, you should have gone to Woodstock. You would have been great there. You know, you would have made a difference." And I don't think so.
No, but you know, what did we learn about ourselves in the 60s and the early 70s? And I think that's important because people have started to realize the big issue is at between 16 and 25 impulse control. Young people, women and men, the amount of stuff that's going on now with the bullying and the teasing off the internet. And they were talking about huge story this morning. Mary Jo and I were watching.
Mary Jo?
Yeah. My boss, my CEO, the capo di tutti capi, the boss of the bosses.
She's talking to you?
Oh, yeah. Well, what time is it?
Okay.
So, but we were watching this story about the impact of the internet and TikTok and kids' suicides from TikTok. They're attacking each other. And I said, here we go again. And so it doesn't make any difference what they're drawn to. If we don't talk to them heart to heart, spiritually, with faith, with compassion, and listen with the same compassion and faith and love and forgiveness, there's a generation of young people that are going to be in jeopardy just like they were to drugs and alcohol.
So I'm an old man,
Right.
compared to you. I don't say right.
Sorry, Father.
And if I were to say to you, Mike, what is this TikTok stuff? What is it?
Okay.
Tell me where it came from.
Essentially, Cesar could tell you more about it, but because, they have short little videos.
Cesar being our engineer.
Yes, our brilliant engineer, the
who's
man.
making you look good.
Yes, which is almost a virtual impossibility, by the way.
All right, TikTok.
But TikTok is you put up short videos, but they've started to weaponize it, and they were talking about this. The kids are weaponizing it to attack people, and they put the comment section up, and then everybody's running at people, and all they want to do is be loved and respected and honored in their own way, putting up their own images or stuff. And the venom, the vitriol, the attacks have been so angry and rage-filled that the youngsters become suicidal because they think it's everybody. and it's
calling them whatever.
Yes, the comment section alone is what's going on. I saw it with
Now, is TikTok part of Facebook?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
So
It is.
but it's independent. Is that just a tag name, TikTok?
Well, it's quick takes on quick vids. In Facebook, you can do them a little bit longer and make your point a little bit more, but TikTok's real quick. But what's happening with the younger generation, they like TikTok more than Facebook. Facebook's for people like in their 70s and 80s. And I feel so sometimes as a person who's worked 50, almost 55 years with children. Started taking care of wounded when I was 17. And I'm thinking, man, I'm so distanced from it. I'm so far removed that I have to go to Cesar and Trevor and Ra to say, how can this be? And then, you hear them, they're saying, hey, we're as mystified as we are. It's important for us everybody, pump the brakes and talk to each other. And just like you said, be in community, talk to each other, get to know what's going on. Why church is so important at St. Vincent's, because that's a place for us to socialize with other seniors who are really important to their grandkids' lives. It's huge, I mean, I am in mortal fear for my little grandson, who's only 5, but
because he's smarter than
that wasn't real hard to do. That wasn't. I mean, I thought Cheerios were donut seeds. Anyway,
I had to break in there, but I had to do it because Mike has told me about this 5-year-old who.
He's my 5-year-old grandson. I was on the talking to Armed Forces radio the other day with Jan Wall, and I stood up, and he's over there, and I said, well, I didn't know you were in here. And he goes, I was watching you try to be funny. I go, it's not good when the 5-year-old has better sitcom timing than you. And the other day, the same thing, Katie says, where's all the fresh Parmesan cheese? And he goes, try Grandpa's belly. And I went, from the other room. He's in the other room delivering the line. Off camera, 5-year-old mocks grandfather. So, but like you say, I have to learn every day from these guys. And what was great when I was with these guys, the kids come in, our interns come in, and they know more than these guys. And the younger interns know more than the older interns because they're so freshly into the technology.
So they know more. Excuse me, let me stop you. We were just talking about the experience of the older people and how these trees, they grow at the end of their lives. Now, but that knowledge that you might get from TikTok or and there must be some good from it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, give an example of what.
Well, when Katie's on there, she's baking with her little son and teaching baking lessons and his involvement of being completely involved on TikTok. And people follow her from her job. They do the same with her hairstyling is huge on TikTok.
Oh.
And they show different styles of hair and balayage and hairstyles and stuff. But to me, I sit sometimes and when I see these new technologies arrive, I'm like, sunburning my tonsils. I'm going, wow. I feel like Gomer and Goober on the old Andy Griffith show. Wow, I can't believe this, Andy. So I feel like we kind of grew up in that time, I mean, but there's so many good things that happen from Facebook. I could keep in touch with all my cousins. I can keep in touch with my cousins in New York and Florida, in Olympia, Washington, and Hawaii, and just being able to talk to them. That's something you can do that daily. Mm-hmm. And send them a message, private message, and you're like, wow, you're knowing that even though your big Irish Catholic clan is expanding outward. They're being raised everywhere. That's pretty amazing, right?
Well, we're running close to the end here for this half hour, but there is that statue in Rio de Janeiro on top of the hill. Are you familiar with it?
I love that.
Yeah, it's called Christ the Redeemer, and it's like whatever's going on down there and around,
Right.
it's all right. You're gonna be redeemed. And there's another town in Brazil they tried to outdo. I think it's called Rio Grande, but they put up a statue that's bigger than that one.
Wow.
And it's called Christ the Protector. And inside this huge statue, you can go inside, and right where the heart is
Wow.
of the statue, there's a huge window there. So you can go up into that statue, look out into the world.
Wow.
And I'm sure it was planned this way, but you speak to the world from the heart of Jesus. Our God, or this statue, or whatever you want to term it. It's kind of a nice visual to think about.
I'm with you.
Especially in our work, as soon as you leave, if you just babble and not speak from here,
Right.
you're just a gong and a cymbal, and St. Paul said all
Clanging
those
bell,
words.
right? Yeah.
You're all those things, and you don't really mean a whole lot to the world.
Well, I think when you see through the poverty out there and the wealth in Brazil, it's really important to know that in that disparity, just like in America, if we can help those two groups understand each other, that is the heart of Christ. Do not blame, do not accuse, do not try to diminish or attack or demonize others, but get to know them, because truly the real successes in the world aren't the people that love money and use people. They're the people that love people and use money, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't use people's, and pardon the expression, folks, but you can't use other people's heart as toilet paper for yourself and think you're better than them and isolate yourself and be condescending or rude or cruel to other people in judgment and separate. And I guess the line I love the most that I talked about was the head of Salvation Army, Mr. Booth. They asked him what one word he'd like to send out on the telegraph, and he said, others.
Oh, yeah, you told me that before.
Think of others. And when we do that, I mean, that's been our life since we were kids. I mean, back at Camp Don Bosco, St. John Bosco.
So we started out this half hour, and we're about to the end of it, talking about a year of drought, and as Jeremiah says, there should be no distress about this, because we all have strong roots. Not all of us, but many of us take great comfort in that, and we get courage, and we get our, because of our faith, we're not afraid, as I was to go to Woodstock. We're not
with good reason.
We're not afraid to stand up and be counted. So, thank you all for being with us, and we'll look forward to another time. With now, we're going to say Pritch and Padre.
Warren, it was his idea.
No, Warren, I told him no elephant sounds forever. No, you're waiting. Thank you all. We'll see you again next time. God bless.
God bless.